Hi, I'm walking towards a Costco parking lot, which feels very authentic. And I'm watching the sunrise, but right now I'm reflecting on assumptions, and more specifically, what assumptions stop me from understanding and creating value for the world. Assumptions are such a cornerstone trait of humans. It helps us be more intuitive, it helps us reach conclusions, and that can be really powerful because if you waited for all the information in the world to decide something, we wouldn't make any decisions. But they also create a filter for us viewing the world from other people's perspectives. And I recently read an article on perspective taking versus perspective getting. In perspective taking, when you literally try to imagine yourself in someone else's shoes, you are applying your assumptions, your stereotypes in that imagination. It's really hard to just remove yourself away from that and remove yourself away from the assumptions that you've been making likely for years and years. But perspective getting, on the other hand, is about just removing everything and starting from ground zero. You might call that first principles, but just saying, you know what, I just want to be empirical. I'm going to observe, I'm going to see what this perspective is rather than assume parts of it. And that's how you can remove the bias from perspective taking. And that's how you can understand people and how they interact with society and problems, and also understand, be more empathetic. But it's just a different way of looking at perspective. But you have to first put the prerequisite that we have assumptions and they stop us from getting the full picture. And some of our assumptions are stronger than others. Our assumptions differ between people, but we still all have different assumptions. And although my hand is freezing, thinking about where my major assumptions lie is a really uncomfortable thought. It feels like a really lengthy process to get over it. Instead of taking the information that's just quickly stored in my brain, to get perspective versus take perspective is a more difficult, more rigorous process, but that method is also more accurate and it'll bring you a more concrete perspective of the world. So my reflection from this Costco parking lot is, it is so easy to be naive, jump to conclusions, quickify things. That is not a word. But assumptions stop us from seeing reality, and they put filters on our worldview, and they're not accurate. And you have to rigorously test them before you can call them truth, but we just don't do that process. I feel like this video series is just a lot of reflection questions, and I'm so okay with that. This has been a very reflective past few days and a past few sunrises and a past few little video clips. But I'm going to continue on that trend, and I'm going to sit for 20 minutes and reflect on where I don't want to be in a month, in a year, and in 5 years. So I finished the exercise. I have no idea how long I was doing that for. Basically, my reflection was on where I don't want to be. I broke it down into March 2021, June 2021, September 2021, February 2022, and February 2026. And it was so much clearer and easier to do than where I want to be, because where I want to be is kind of an abstract concept, but where I don't want to be is fairly easy. And I ended up coming up with 3 really great insights. But I really like that exercise, and I have a few minutes before my class begins. But that was really refreshing.